Hey everyone, in this tutorial I'm going to show you a few different ways to create buttons. First, we're going to start with our basic flat-eyed button. So this is a four-eyed button here. To start, we're going to go into our ellipse tool. You can find this hidden under the rectangle tool in the toolbar. So with our ellipse tool selected, we can now draw our circle. Hold Shift on your keyboard and click with your mouse. Hold down this click and drag to draw a circle. Release your mouse once you create the shape you desire. I'm going to give this a fill color, and I'll leave my stroke for now. Now that we have the basic shape, we need to draw the circle for the eyes. So first, let's go back to our ellipse tool, and we'll start by drawing a small circle. Next, I'm going to duplicate this circle. So I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm going to duplicate this eye. There are several ways to do this. You can go to Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste. You can right-click, Copy, and Paste. You can use the copy and paste commands on your keyboard, which are Command C and Command V, or Control C and Control V. Or you can use the shortcut, which is holding down Option to copy and clicking and dragging. And I'm going to go ahead and do that while holding Shift. Now I have created another eye. I'm going to select these together at the same time, and to do that I'm going to hold Shift on my keyboard. So holding Shift, I'm going to select these together using my black arrow. Now I'm going to copy these two eyes together so that we can have the total of 4 eyes. So I'm going to hold down the Option key and Shift key on my keyboard, hold down click and drag, and now I have 4 eyes. Now you want to make sure they are equidistant. If you did this one at a time, you'll need to make sure they are aligned. So let me show you how that would work. Say I just did a basic copy and paste. It's just going to paste it anywhere on my pasteboard here. So I'm going to go here and drag this over, and you can see that there are alignment tools showing up as I drag it closer to this other circle. But to make sure they're aligned, you can select them together, and you can use the align tools either in your control panel, in your properties panel, or by going to the align panel, which is window align. Now I can make sure that these are aligned to the top. So in my align objects, I can see this one here, vertical align top. And now these circles are aligned to the top of each other. I'm going to go ahead and copy these down, and holding Shift, it makes sure that they stay in alignment to the original pair. So selecting these together now, I'm going to group these objects. When you group objects together, it puts them together as a unit. And because they are all the same and serving the same function, I'm going to group them together. So to do this, I can go to Object Group. I can also right-click Group, and I can also do Command G on my keyboard. Now that I have these eyes grouped together, I need to align the grouping to my button shape. So to do that, I'm going to select the group and the main button shape together at the same time. Now I'm going to align this vertically centered and horizontally centered. So I can use my align panel, and I will go to horizontal align center, and I will go to the vertical align center. Now I have my eyes for my buttons and my main button shape. The final step for creating this button is I need to punch the eyes out of the main shape. And to do this, I'm going to use the Pathfinder tool. To find the Pathfinder tool, you can go to Window, Pathfinder. So I am going to select these 5 shapes together, and I am going to go to my shape modes in my Pathfinder tool. The second shape mode is called minus front. This will create a compound shape by subtracting the shape area on the top from the shape area behind it. So I'm going to click this, and now I have my compound shape. So when I drag this button, I see that it's actually transparent behind it. It's not just some circles over the main button area that are filled with white. It's actually cut out, and you can see through the back of it. So you'll want to make sure that you do this step. Now let's go ahead and create the button with the rim. I'm going to start again by drawing this circle. I'm going to go ahead and draw my eyes again. So I'm going to start by drawing one eye, and I'm going to show you another way to do this time. So we're going to use the rotate tool to copy this eye. This will allow us to make sure that it's centered and we won't have to do all the aligning options doing it this way. So I'm going to place my eye, and then the next thing I'm going to do with it selected is I'm going to go into my rotate tool. This tool is located in the toolbar with the reflect tool. So rotate is R, and once I get into this tool, it activates these crosshairs. What I can do is I can tell the computer an axis point to rotate and copy this circle around. And so I can copy it 3 times, giving it the very center of this circle. With my rotate tool, I have the crosshairs over the center point, and it's telling me I'm on my center point because it says center right here. So if I hold down Option and click once, now notice that my little eye is selected. When I do this, it gives me this rotate dialog box. So I want 4 of these. So I want this to be rotated 90 degrees. So I'm going to type in 90 and I'm going to hit copy. Now I need to do that 2 more times. And so I'm going to hit the shortcut Command or Control D on the keyboard. This stands for duplicate twice. And now I have my eyelets copied. Now, if it doesn't copy it so that they're in perfect alignment with each other, you can go back and select them and use your align tools to make sure that they are aligned. Now, with these 4 eyes created, I'm going to select them together and group them. So right click and group. Just as before, I'm going to select these together and align them to each other, centered horizontally and vertically. I'm going to wait until I do the punching. So next I'm going to create my rim. So to create the rim, I'm going to use a tool called Offset Path. You can find it under Object, Path, Offset Path, or you can also find it usually in your Properties panel. With the main circle selected, I'm going to hit the Offset Path command. Now the Offset Path will take the path that is selected and essentially duplicate it and create a second path that is either going inside or outside the original path. So I want this path to go inside the original path. This is going to help me create the rim effect. Let's go in -10 points. And that looks like a good amount for the rim. However, I want this rim to be its own shape that I can select. And right now I just have the big circle and the smaller circle. So to create this shape, I'm going to use the Pathfinder tool again, and I'm going to use the divide function. So let's go back to our Pathfinder tool, Window, Pathfinder, and I'm going to select the outer circle and this inner circle. Here under the Pathfinders, I'm going to click the first option that says divide, and essentially the areas that are overlapping will be divided and they will create their own shapes. So I'll click divide. And while this looks essentially the same right now, if I go into my white arrow and I select the rim, I can see that it's actually its own shape. And then I can select the inner shape. And finally, I need to punch out the holes one more time. So I'm going to select the inner shape, and then I'm going to select the 4 eyes. And now I'm going to hit the minus front option again. And now I have a rimmed button. It is important to create this shape with the rim. This is because we need to add a specific type of gradient to the rim to give it the dimension. And so that's why it needs to be its own shape. So to colorize this with a gradient, let's just select our basic gradient, and then we can go in and make adjustments. I can go from dark, light to dark again. This may take some moving around, but eventually I can have my dark, lighter, and darker, and I have this rimmed effect. And I can go ahead and select this, and we'll just give it a basic gray color. And now we've created a rimmed button. Next, I'm going to show you how to create a metal logo button. First, we'll start by drawing our button once again. Now that I have this circle created, I'm going to offset the path. I'm going to use this path to create the ring of text that goes inside the main button. To create this offset path, I'm going to go to Object, Path, Offset Path, and I can use the same offset as the previous, but I think I want it to go in a little more. Let's do -15 pt and click OK. Now with this path, I am going to create a path for my text. So if I go to my text tool in our toolbar, which is T, and I hold down with my mouse to get these other options, I see a type on a path tool. So I'm going to select this type on a path tool, and with this new offset path created, I'm going to click with the type tool on that path, and then automatic lorem ipsum default text will be placed. And I can go ahead and type in Levi, and I can go ahead and change my font. So I can choose different fonts if I'd like. I can also adjust the size of my text, and I can even adjust the placement of this text. So let me go ahead and position the text so that it looks a little bit more like this button. This is a little bit tricky. So with my black arrow selected, I see these two vertical lines. This vertical line here will allow me to rotate my text. So here I am using this vertical line to rotate the text and place it closer to where it would be if it were actually on the button. These lines create the starting and ending point. So one is the starting point and this one is the ending point. So you need to be careful if you're choosing these lines. If you start moving one around and your text disappears, it just means that you moved the wrong line. And so you just need to take a step backward and make the correction. All right, let's zoom out and see what other adjustments we need to do for our text. We could add a registered trademark. We could also add some space here. And with that, we could also add some space between our letters. So under our character panel here in the properties panel, we have our tracking, which is the one that has the arrows going from left to right. And we can increase the space between our letters. And with this adjustment, I can adjust the placement of my text one more time. And there I have created a button with some text on it. Next, we're going to go ahead and create a grommet or an eyelet. This is a piece of metal that has a hole in it that would be placed inside fabric for things like laces to go through. So to start, I'm going to draw my circle. Since this circle has no holes on it, I'm just going to copy this last one over. So I have a black stroke on this circle. I am going to go ahead and increase the weight of this stroke so that it's about the weight and thickness of this grommet. So to do that, I'm going to go to the stroke panel either up here in my character panel. I can also find it in the properties panel, or we can open up our stroke panel. So there's several places to find and adjust the weight. So I'm going to go ahead and increase this weight until it looks about the same thickness as this grommet or eyelet. To use this stroke and make it this actual shape that is cut out, kind of like the rim shape we have over here, I'm actually going to expand the stroke. This will take it from being something that is applied to a line, and it will create that actual shape. So with my black arrow, I'm going to select this circle with this stroke, and I'm going to go to Object, Expand. I see my expand options. I'm going to say yes to fill and stroke and click OK. And now when I select it, it is its own shape. So essentially we've done a similar thing that we did for the rim. It's just another way to go about doing it. All right. So now we have our grommet here, and we're going to go ahead and delete this inside circle so that it's transparent. And now essentially we've gone ahead and created a grommet. It was really that simple. We just created a stroke, we expanded the stroke and deleted the inside piece. To give this the metallic look, we can once again go into our gradient swatches. To find metallic swatches, you can go into the swatches panel, click the hamburger icon, go to Open Swatch Library, go to the Gradient Library, and go to the metals. Here we have several options for metal swatches, and so this will maybe help you create something that is a little more accurate and metallic looking without having to fiddle around with the gradient panel too much. So let's take a look and see what we've done in this lesson. We've learned how to create a flat 4-eyed button using the Pathfinder tool to punch out the eyes. Here we've created a button with rings using the Offset Path tool, the Divide tool, and the minus front tool in the Pathfinder. With the metal logo button, we've used our Offset Path tool and our Type on a Path tool to create this logo button. And here for the grommet and eyelet, we created a very large stroke, expanded that stroke, and then deleted the inside circle with our Direct Select tool. So I hope that this helps you create a variety of buttons, and hopefully you've learned a couple new tricks along the way. Please subscribe to my channel for more tips like this.